I know. Hey, you got to do it, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about to be a hot conversation. I'm excited. I'm Coach Ricardo Miller, and let me share this. I got to share this with some of my colleagues. I need as
Hmm.
many people to see this as possible because I have none other than Nathaniel Pratt live with me. Check it out. I got my phone with me.
Okay.
We're gonna share this, and we're gonna help someone figure out how to survive during this pandemic. Man, there's so much disruption going on, and I feel on fire, man. I tell Nathaniel, I took a week off, man. I took a week off.
Wow. Wow. So you're energized, you're
Oh
refreshed.
man, let me tell you something, man. I could take on another giant. And let me tell you, and I don't normally take off like how I did, but
Mhm.
man, I have a great assistant. I have a great
Mhm.
team around me and some phenomenal people advising me. Ricardo, make sure you don't, you know what I mean, overextend yourself to where the well becomes empty or dry.
That's
And
true.
so,
That's true.
yeah, make sure you recap and refill and prep yourself to be able to do what you got to do. So, ladies and gentlemen, after having I think it maybe about 6 days just to chill, just to reflect and so forth. So your boy came back with fire and with passion. And Nathaniel is my first live conversation on my effective living page after a week.
Wow.
So we came to help. We came to help some people, y'all. We came to help. So do me a favor. Share, share, share. Let them know Coach Ricardo Miller is on, Nathaniel Butler is on, and we're going to help you figure out how and what you need to do with your money during these times. Okay? How do you need to navigate during these times? Ricardo, I'm unemployed right now. They ain't give me no check in 2 months. What do I need to do? We're going to
Mm.
talk about that. This is going to be a hot conversation. Yep.
Yes.
And it's a Saturday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, 3 p.m. Bahamas time. We need as many people on this deal as possible. So I'm sharing it. I need you guys to share. Can y'all do me a favor and share, please? I listen, man. Your boy back. Okay,
Yep.
your boy back. Nathaniel, how you been doing?
I've been good, man. I've been good. I've been helping as many persons as I could possibly can help.
Yep.
We are conquering some of the major challenges here with the pandemic going on. But guess what? We are getting so much tremendous success stories in the midst of it, Ricardo.
Yep.
I borrowed something which you said.
Yep.
In every season there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. Why not me?
Come
I want
on.
to
Come
win in
on.
this season, and we have a lot of
Woo.
people who are doing that, man.
Listen, someone is going to do very well this year in the midst of COVID-19, in the midst of a pandemic. And you might as well just declare right now, why not me? Okay. I see Vito is in the house. Listen, please, if you're watching, could you check in and let us know where you're watching? We want to know where you're tuned in. Today, it's all about money matters. Okay. When your money is funny, you find yourself living a life that is stressful beyond the norm. Okay, and,
Yes.
and I mean, listen, that's not the way you're supposed to live. Okay, you were not created to live broke, sick, and frustrated. Okay, let me say that again. You were not created to live broke, sick, and frustrated. Somebody need to declare that right now. I was not created to live broke, sick, and frustrated. Now, here's the deal.
I like it.
Everybody's gonna have a little bad day every now and again. Okay, you can find yourself in a space where you really did not intend to be, but let me tell you something, you ain't supposed to live there. No presiding
Mm,
there. Nothing
mm.
missing, lacking, or broken. Our goal is to help you to move forward. So I've shared it a few times. If you
Me
guys
too.
can share, please do me a favor and invite some other persons to be a part of what we're about to talk. Nathaniel, for those who may have not been following you already, tell them a little bit about Nathaniel Butler. What is it that you're doing in this season, my friend?
So, like you said, my name is Nathaniel Butler. I'm also known as Druber, Mr.
Yep,
Druber himself.
yep,
And basically, I am the guy when it comes down to personal finance here in the Caribbean, here in the Bahamas, here
yep,
in
yep.
the 242. We help a lot of persons out in various different areas in the area of personal finance, from persons who are trying to get homes, help them with the mortgage program. We also help persons with trying to go off to school with scholarships. We help persons out in regards to insurance, believe it or not. And last but not least, help people raise money for their business in the midst of a pandemic. In the midst of a pandemic. So, I have a few clients who have raised a couple dollars. I won't share so much. A couple dollars. But more importantly, we also help people get out of debt in the midst of this, help people weather the storm in the midst of this. And they are winning. They are winning. I'm not making this stuff up. Principles are principles. They're working with whatever season, climate, environment, or country you're in. They work, man. They work. And you just got to work it, and they will work you, man.
Listen, I heard Bishop T.D. Jakes said, it'll work if you work it. It'll work if you work it. Now, here's the deal. We're going to provide practical things persons can do that can bring them out of 2020, ahead of the curve and possibly thriving in every area of their life, but they got to apply. It'll work if you work it. Now, Nathaniel, during this pandemic, there's been a massive disruption, not only to the Bahamas economy, but literally economies around the world. Tell us a little bit about what you see that's happening when it comes to the disruption of business and service and the exchange of money. Let's talk about the negative elements first. Let's bring some reality factors to light. What's happening with businesses, with jobs, with people living under that previous model versus where we are now?
Well, to be honest with you, everything came to a halt. What I mean by that is, by so many businesses and us as consumers, we weren't able to go into businesses. We weren't able to go to work in some cases. We weren't even able to send our children to school in a lot of cases. What ended up happening was the world in itself came to a halt because of the COVID-19 virus and the pandemic. As a result of that, with so very few activities, so many businesses that were closed down for a period of time, you begin to run out of cash because expenses still, the expenses still happen. You still got to pay the bills. By the end of the day, you were not able to generate that money on the back end. So what ended up happening when you have a number of businesses within various different industries not being able to generate or make money, not being able to open due to government restrictions in various different countries, what ended up happening is the entire economy began to contract. They begin to pull back. So what does that mean, Ricardo, for the guy on the side of the road who has a peanut stand, or what happens to the guy who's starting up their business? Well, there's a few dollars in the economy. So it's not a lot of persons who have money. So this is a season, this is a time where you find persons who are valued, they stand out. But it's hard to stand out if there's not a lot of cash coming in.
Come on. Wow, it is hard to stand out if there isn't a lot of cash coming in. Now, Nathaniel, there's a lot of people who don't want to talk about money right now because the money is funny in their life, but they don't realize this is a good time to talk about money. As a matter of fact, you need to pay attention to everything you have, everything you could get, and possibly everything you can make happen. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Talking about money is a very sensitive issue for a lot of persons. You got to remember now, many persons, myself included, I'm not exempt from this as well. Many persons were not taught about money when they were coming up. So it was a taboo topic. It was a topic that you didn't really discuss around the dinner table. And so now in your adult life, as you move about and try to do things, whether you have a job or whether you have a small part-time business, or you have a business that you have employees, you find it sometimes difficult to face with the reality of where you financially stand. And let's be real, Ricardo, everybody's been affected. Everybody has been affected. And so when you have been affected to such a large degree, and you know that your income is not the same, you know that your sales are not the same, it's sometimes scary to look at the numbers. You don't want to look at the numbers. We are down by 70%. In some cases, some persons have been down by 100%. You know what I mean? And to look at that can be very frightening. But I love the point that you made. Here's the thing, Ricardo. You can't change what you don't know. You cannot change what you don't know. You cannot put in tactical steps or pivot if you don't know what the numbers are. And I'm saying to someone right now who may be afraid to look at the numbers, Let me tell you something. We got to put the shame away. See, Ricardo, another reason why people don't want to deal with the money issue is because it attracts a lot of negative emotions, denial, shame, fear. The list goes on. But I'm telling you this, you're only going to have that for a moment once you look at it. But then if you allow your mind to come up with strategies, tips, ways on how you can come out of your situation, you'll find that feeling of fear, that feeling of shame will go away, man, dissipate.
Shame. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, man. Let me tell you something. Someone is going to come out of 2020 ahead because they're going to throw shame out of the window. Okay? Pride have to go, because here's the deal. This pandemic did not come selecting a one set of people, one set or one side, one country, you know what I'm saying? One ethnic group, one type of educational position. Oh, let me tell you something. If you don't get to the point where you roll up your sleeves and tell yourself, I got to go to work. Now, here's what I noticed, Nathaniel. At the beginning of this year, there were some good people who wrote down some things that 2020 was going to be for them. They prayed, they fasted, and listen, they started to declare what 2020 was supposed to be for them. There were people who went to vision board parties in December, okay? In November of last year. I'm talking about October. Y'all know I'm talking sense. Y'all should be sharing and tagging and inviting others to be a part of this talk, because I'm trying to help someone. They wrote it down, Nathaniel. They had the confidence to believe 2020 was supposed to be their year. Then, bam! The pandemic occurred again. And listen, the economy shut down. Then the prime minister announced a thing. And then watch this. You got a store now. When they talk about curbside, you can't do curbside. How do you do curbside when women want to buy bra? Okay, how do you do curbside when you got a kid who ain't know his shoe size and he want to try on multiple shoes? How do you do curbside, man? So we got a lot of issues going on, and there are people, unfortunately, Nathaniel, who have literally thrown in the towel for 2020. Now, what I'm saying is, I want to talk about my first point. You got to stop and collect. What is it that I have that I'm working with? Draw up a budget. Is it still a reasonable thing, Nathaniel, to have a budget? Is it still reasonable? And tell us why.
Well, let me tell you something. So persons would say in a climate like this is the time to get rid of it. Let me tell you something. The devil is a liar.
Yeah, come on.
In order for you to maximize the time, the season, the opportunity that you have, this is a time where you have to stick to that budget even more than ever before. Let me tell you why. Because you have limited resources. We can't allow any form of wastage. Every cent that you spend, gotta bring back 10.
Come on.
Every cent that you spend has to bring back 10. We're in a season right now that every dollar has to be accounted for. You hear me? Because guess what? Even though you had the dream, even though you attended the event, even though it was on your mind, in your heart, you was just waiting for the time on the calendar to manifest it. Now we have a pandemic, but guess what? The dream didn't die. Guess what? The opportunity is still there. It's just in a different form. But in order for that to happen, we got to relook at the budget, what was going to make it happen in the first place, take some things out what may not be relevant for the time, and stick to the rest that is relevant for the time, because guess what? Manifestation is on your mind. You got to manifest that dream, man. And I know you mentioned some things. You talk about how can you shop and buy certain items unless you're in the store to try it on and look at it. Guess what? This is the time for innovation, man. This is the time where you got to think there was a box. Now you so far from the box, you didn't know a box existed.
Come on.
Listen to me. And you can do that with a budget. This is the time when you have what they call the shoestring budget. You don't have money for the marketing. You don't have money to pay for suppliers. You don't even have money for the staff, man. Talk to me, Ricardo. You don't even have money for the staff. This is the time where we got to look at what we have and maximize the opportunity. I hear you, and that sounds easier said than done. Listen to me. If it sounds easier said than done, you didn't put a lot of thought into it yet. You got to look at what angle, where's everybody's at? What can you do to get people's attention? Ricardo, listen to me. Listen to me. In every environment, somebody is buying.
Come on. Yeah.
In every environment, somebody is buying.
Yep.
I know a lot of persons who have not stopped spending. They're not spending in store. They're spending online. Are you there?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Are you there?
Yep.
Because there are a lot of affordable options to get you there, but you need a budget to know what you're working with, what service providers work within your budget, and manifest that thing, Ricardo.
Ooh. Now, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. The person who's trying to fight to keep on holding on to what they were doing prior to COVID-19, prior to the shutdown. When we talk about that budget, you watch this. Let me give an example. Someone had a budget for $1,000 a week expenses, but now you're dealing with, you've been laid off. You're getting maybe government assistance, but it's maybe 25% of what you were bringing in before. There's some slashes that has to occur, but the budget still needs to stay in place to be able to identify the essentials. There are certain things that you're going to have, and then there are certain things you're going to say, okay, under normal circumstances, I could take my clothes to the cleaners, right, Nathaniel? Under normal circumstances, I would have gone to get me some Kong salad. I would have gone to get me a Kong fritter and so forth. But because I'm working with a budget and I can see, because what happens in Nathaniel is a lot of people are not paying attention to what they're seeing. You can see that there is a disruption in the economy, and you can't keep living the way you've been living. You got to live on a budget that's going to make sense to bring you through this. Talk to us about it.
But Ricardo, you got to remember now, here's the reason why budgets don't work. Here's the reason why that person is saying, they suck their teeth when you said that, man. Because guess what? We are creatures of habit.
Yes.
When we were in good times, the budget didn't work then. So imagine now. That's what somebody's saying, Ricardo. That's what somebody's saying. But listen to me, Ricardo. I love what you're saying, because guess what? We have to look at our habits, right? We need to craft a budget that makes sense, and we have to become intentional. There's that word, intentional. Why? Because we're dealing with less income now. And in some cases, very minimal income. But we cannot live like we were in the regular environment. You talk about priorities. Let me give you 4 priorities I believe everybody should be focusing on right now who has been affected by COVID in the income category.
Watch this. I need them to write this down, guys. Write it down. Put it in the comments, because I need someone who's going to come afterwards or come a little late to see what we're talking about. Go ahead, Nathaniel.
Here we go. So number 1, we got to take care of the food and medication, man. Food and medication. We got to survive. Those hierarchies of needs. Hey, we got to survive here, man.
Hey, so before you go on to the next one, right? That's so good, because here's the deal. We got to survive, Nathaniel, but there are some prideful people out there. And here's the deal. Medication is a must. But there is also, if you embrace humility and you get rid of pride, you can get some free food. How important is it for someone to realize that here's the deal? I have to get medication and I have to have food, and that's on your list 1, right? But I can become creative and slash my food budget in half by basically humbling myself and saying I ain't too big or too bold or too bad to simply request the assistance of free services during a pandemic. Talk to us, sir.
Listen to me. I know what it feels like. I remember one time, Abaco, one of the islands here in the Bahamas, was devastated by a Category 5. For the first time in my life, I had to go on a food line. I didn't want to go on a food line. I had to go. There was no food places available. At that time, it was an easy decision. I needed food. I know in this pandemic right now, there are some persons who never saw themselves in the position that they're in. Going on a food line is beneath them. Listen to me. You got to put that pride aside. Why? Because it's about survival. You got to put that pride aside. Why? Because your family needs it. And it's only for a season. Even what happens if somebody sees me on the line? What happens if they treat me bad if I were to go on the line? Listen to me. Once you have a belly full, you ain't worried about what somebody is saying, man. When you have a belly full, You don't have to worry. See, let me tell you something. There's two types of kids in the household in a time like this. You
Yeah.
got the children who can understand, and you have the children who cannot understand. Listen to me,
Yes. Yeah.
Ricardo.
Yep.
Because when that child knocks on the door and say, "Mommy, I ain't hungry, Daddy, I ain't hungry," and you said,
Yeah.
"But Daddy just lost his job. Mommy just lost his job." They ain't hearing that. I am
No. No.
hungry and I
Hungry. Yeah.
want my food now.
Now. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
listen to me. So go on that food line, call up those persons, check to see what is available around you, check
Yeah.
to see what churches, civic organizations are providing food
Providing.
assistance around you, check to see
Yeah.
what the government is doing, Ricardo.
Yes, 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 yes. Because something is being offered to assist, but a lot of people aren't doing the work because we've become accustomed, like you said, taking care of ourselves. We have had our jobs that have secured us. Persons have been making good money and they felt as though, well, this will pass. But what's this? 1 month has gone, the hotel's been shut down. 2 months have gone, the airport is pretty much at a standstill. 3 months, 4 months, and no cruise ship has come in. There are a lot of people are in denial, waiting for the turn, but apparently the turn doesn't look like it's coming. But yet they don't want to humble themselves and get on that line, Nathaniel. They don't want to do the research and find out from NIB what is it that they can do to assist in this particular time. What other small services that I can maybe get a job to assist with because I have expertise outside of what I'm accustomed to doing, but I need to do something. This guy right here is offering a job. This person is doing this. And during this pandemic, I'm going to come out of this thing with the victory. You mentioned one, take that food element and that medicine. So critical. Talk to us, Nathaniel.
Yeah, man, that food and medicine. Listen to me, Ricardo. Listen to me. There are people here who have to understand we have to survive instead
Yeah.
of living in our feelings.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
We
Yeah.
got to survive
Yeah.
instead of living in our feelings. This is just the reality. And this is only a season. This season will come to an end.
Yeah.
See, I'm speaking to the person who believes in providing for themselves and
Yeah.
they struggle to accept
Yeah.
assistance from
Yeah.
someone else,
Yes.
Ricardo.
Yes. Yes.
You ready for point number two, Ricardo?
Let's go for it. Let's go for it.
Okay. So point number two is shelter. This is a big one. This is a
Yeah.
big one. Because see,
Yeah.
we have three groups of persons within this point.
Yeah.
So you got the group who's living with family
Yeah.
or a friend and not contributing.
Come on. Yep.
All right.
Yep. Come on.
So they're not challenged in a sense as the other two groups I'm about to drop.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. If you're living with family and you're living with a friend and they're not requiring you to
Yeah.
provide any assistance, but you see them going through hardship, this is the time now that we got to provide some assistance to them.
Yes. Yep.
This is the time now that we have to show some gratitude. You hear what I'm saying,
Yep.
Ricardo?
Yep. Yep.
Because
Yep.
you don't want that person who's providing that shelter to be
Yes.
under pressure and your arms fold. And
Yep.
you're
Yep.
not going to provide that level of assistance. You get where I'm coming from,
Hey,
Ricardo?
hey! I like that one because I've stayed with people before, man. Let me tell you something. You should never stay with someone and they, unless the dishes is dirty. You understand what I'm saying? If you ain't working and you're at home and this person is allowing you to stay and be what's this, in their space and they're trying to hold down the whole fort. You know, there are people, Nathaniel, they will grab the remote, they'll watch TV all day, stay on social media, but not contribute. If you're staying with someone during this pandemic, you gotta ask yourself, how can I be a blessing?
Talk
How
to
can
them.
I be a blessing? How can I provide value to this household? These people are covering me. My mom, my dad, whoever, your brother, your sister, your best friend, someone from church. Don't just be a taker. You say, well, Ricardo, I don't have a job. That's why I'm with them. Guess what? I didn't have a job for a while. That's why they have me sleeping on their sofa. But you can
Yes.
provide value. You can offer
Mm,
some form of service. You got to get to the point where you say, I'm not just going to take, but I got to find a way to give.
right. I like it. I like it because that's the reality. These are the harsh facts. These are the harsh realities. You might not be able to contribute financially or
Yep.
monetarily, but you
Yep.
can do some things around that house. Let's talk about the second group, Ricardo. The second
Yep.
group right now is those who are renting.
Yep.
See, now for the person who is renting, now there's two
Yep.
groups. You got the one that is renting
Yep.
and have a job, but it's reduced, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so you have, because of sometimes our social background,
Yep.
you have some people who would have no difficulty sitting down and having that conversation.
Yep.
But you have a lot of persons who are part of the next group who find it challenging now because they're not able to contribute what they used to.
Yep.
but to sit down with the landlord because they are in fear of what the landlord may say. So hold on. So let me show you something. So this is what we're going to do. We don't want to have that conversation unless we have a plan. And let me tell you what the plan is. The first thing we need to do is we need to ensure and secure another place, even if we have to rent or potentially ask someone to provide us a space free of charge for a short period of time before you sit down with that landlord. Okay? We got to secure, just in case that conversation is not favorable, just in case that landlord has that place under mortgage and the bank is putting pressure on them, just in case. Now, point number 2. We need to see where we're at, going back to that B word, budget. We need to see where we're at in our budget and what we can give. And let's be realistic with it. Let's not pick a number that we're going to struggle with. Even if it's not going to cover a whole lot of things, even if it covers just the bare minimum, something is sometimes better than nothing at all. You hear where I'm coming from, Ricardo?
So let me plug this in there because I think that is so good, man. Listen, there are people who they're renting, and because the economy has been disrupted, they're still giving their landlord an attitude like the landlord is obligated to covering them during their personal crisis, not realizing, as you mentioned, the landlord also has pressure on top of them in that of having to deal with this property as well. So there are people who are renting but have bad attitudes in dealing with the one you're renting from. But then you mentioned something, you look at your budget and you realize, watch this, housing is a critical element for us to have and sustain ourselves during these times of crisis. But watch this, Nathaniel, we know we hadn't paid the rent, but yet you're chosen to go ahead and eat KFC every day. You're choosing to keep cable on. So the landlord is 2 houses down and can see you still hosting a party, could see bounce house coming in your yard, could
Talk about it.
You never even came and told them that, hey, I've been unemployed for 3 months and NIB giving me sufficient. As you mentioned, I'm going to pay half. I'm going to pay half for the next 3 months if that's okay with you, but I will make up for this. What some people have done, Nathaniel, these people can't put me out right now because it's a pandemic. These people can't. The government wrong for letting people put me out. How have you been living and how have you been communicating with the person you're renting from? What is the relationship that you have built up to this point to ensure that the person is more keen to give you grace, to extend favor to you because you're nice about it? Nathaniel, there are some people who are renting from folks. Y'all need to tag somebody y'all know will be blessed by this message. They're renting from someone and they're in a difficult position. Now, watch this. This is not only for those who are renting in the sense of outside renting from someone you don't know, but there are people who are equally in their homes with parents and family members who they used to contribute something, but now they don't have the job and they think it's an automatic right to have a pass with a bad attitude. A bad attitude doesn't justify anything. It makes you actually a bad person to deal with because you are not being reasonable. Not because you lose your job means that I still don't have to pay the rent. I still have to pay the rent on this building and you're supposed to pay a part of it. And if you are still blinging, watch this, Nathaniel, there are people who are unemployed who have signed up for the iPhone 12, Nathaniel. iPhone 12 is coming out next month and they ain't paid their rent. Okay,
you're right.
Oh, come on, you go for
it.
You
better talk about it. Listen to me, Ricardo. I'm telling you, you're right. There are some people right now that just got the PlayStation, with the latest PlayStation. They just got that. They got some persons right now who just threw a party at the place.
Threw a party.
We work at the hotels. No, man, they throwing a party, man. We gotta tell them turn that music down when I can get that rent. But listen to me, you're right. Right now, you have entered into a contractual relationship. And based on that contractual relationship, you are still required to pay. Now, there can be leniency, but based on attitude. There can be leniency, right, based on the type of pressure that is on the landlord. And so we don't want to burn our bridges. We don't want to put the landlord in a position to force the landlord's hand to put us out. You understand what I'm saying? That's why we got to go in there with a conversation. We got to be humble. But more importantly, we got to go there with something. We got to go with some news. We got to go. And also a plan, possibly a plan to pay the rest.
Come on.
Even if it's not a conversation that it will be hashed out and fully right there and then, at least there's the start of the conversation to say when the hotel does open, when the cruise ships do come in. You understand what I'm saying? When the airlines do pick up, Ricardo, we need to look at this at a manageable rate.
Yeah.
You ready for that next one?
Let's go for it.
Okay, and then you got the last group, those who have a house that is under mortgage. Uh-oh.
Yep.
Because guess what? Even though the banks may have some level of leniency because they know what we're faced with here in this pandemic around the world, that doesn't mean, or it doesn't say that we should withdraw ourselves and not have the conversation with them. You don't know what that bank is offering. You do not know where that bank stands. Because here's the thing, Ricardo, when there's lack of communication, when there's lack of communication, you allow the person who you borrow fund to assume the worst.
Yes.
And then what ends up happening is they turn it over to someone else who you cannot plead to.
Yep.
If you do not do your part, you force that financial institution to do theirs. Now, listen to me. All financial institutions do not want to lose any business during this time. And listen to me. This thing still comes down to the money. This thing still comes down to profit and loss. You understand what I'm saying? And so there has to be a clear communication. This is where I'm at. What is available? This is what I can do. I am in a position where I can't do anything at this point in time. What would you have me to do? You understand what I'm saying? Because remember, this is only a season. This is only a season, Ricardo. And when the season comes to an end, you need to be able and to be in a position that you can resume where you're at. So for some persons, they may have to generate extra income in the season to help put in place some of the things that we're talking about. And for other persons, they may have income that can help them apply some of these strategies without having to increase their income. But it still comes down to knowing what you have, Ricardo, knowing what you have and what you're able to contribute. Knowing what you have and then you're able to contribute. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned something just now I think is so important. When you talk about having that other form of hustle that allows you to be able to make that little extra money on the side, because now the national insurance services are not providing you with the level of income that you need to sustain. Okay, so you need that extra income. Now there are people, Nathaniel, that don't have no money issue in the Bahamas, here in the United States, and a number of other places all around the world. When you go to those places, some people are financially stable and they're doing extremely well. And in the pandemic, they've been affected, but that don't mean their money is funny. With that said, they still have services they need rendered. Okay, they still have services they need rendered. And there are some people, Nathaniel, yes, you worked in an office, but right now you've been laid off for 3 months. But guess what? No one can beat you cooking. No one can beat you ironing. Nobody can beat you cooking. I mean, baking. Nobody can beat you. You understand what I'm saying? Your skill set in a particular area is something someone will pay for on the side.
Talk to me.
Starting that small hustle to say instantly, I'm going to provide myself with the best chance of surviving this pandemic by doing that extra hustle. Yes, I may have worked in the bank, but when I was younger, my dad taught me woodwork and carpentry. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to start doing some handyman work because I got laid off from my corporate white collar job. But I still know how to do little maintenance around the house. I still know little plumbing. I still know how to do this and that. How important is it for persons listening to us to understand that money is still circulating and that we all have a service that can be offered, or we can still all add some form of value, and that you got to be prepared to render service to make that money? Talk to us about that.
Listen to me. At this time, in this juncture, we all have something to offer. Let me repeat that. At this time, in this juncture, we all have something to offer. And believe it or not, I tell persons all the time, hey, when you look at what you have to put yourself in the position to add value to others. Where there is a demand, there's a job. Where there's a demand, Ricardo, there's
Yep.
a job. Delivery companies are in great demand. There are jobs available there. You hear
Yep.
what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yep.
Where there's a demand, there's a job. There are online companies that are burning up. They can't even keep up with the demand. There
Yes.
is a job there. But let me talk to you about what you're saying. I love what you're saying. So where we talk about the housing for those persons who have space in your
Yep.
house, there might be
Yep.
families who need to rent a room.
Yes. Yep.
I told my wife the other day we have dead space in the house. We gotta move some things aside and allow some people to rent that space.
Yes.
I'd
Yes.
rather get 20, 40, 50, $100 off of that space than
Yes.
get nothing at all. And we
Come
don't
on,
even use
Nathaniel.
it. We just walk past it like anyhow. Let me leave that alone. All right. And then guess what? We have some things around the house, Ricardo.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
Amazon, eBay,
Yep.
they work two ways. We
Yep.
don't just
Yep.
need to buy, we
Yep.
can do some selling too.
Yes. Come on. Yes.
We can do some selling too. There's some things in the house that have value that we can
Yep.
sell during this time. We might not be able to do the patio sale and people
Yep.
come to the patio sale, but guess what? We got the internet where we
Yep.
can sell all around the world.
Yep.
You gotta
Yep.
let that sink in. You can
Yep.
sell all
All
around the
around the
world,
world.
my
Yep.
friend.
Yep.
And then let's talk about this last point. I like the point which you made. We're talking about providing service value to others. Guess what? As long as you can identify the problems around you, and as long as you can identify the group that is willing to pay money to
Yep.
solve those problems,
Problem.
and
Yep.
last but not least, as long as you can identify how much they're willing to pay, you
Yep.
may potentially have a gig.
Yep.
You may potentially, let me repeat that. As
Yep.
long as you can identify problems, Bahamians are the specialists when it comes, I like to call them problemologists.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah.
identify a problem from far. I think American got that too. I think America
Yeah.
has that as well. We can
Yeah.
identify problems by far.
Yeah.
But we also need to be able to identify a group of people who are willing to spend the money
Yep. Yep.
and
Yep.
are able to spend the money. And the last thing, how much are they willing to spend? We
Yep.
may have a possible gig, Ricardo.
Yep. Hey, you know, I was talking to a gentleman right there in New Providence, and he said, man, listen, he got laid off, and you know what he started doing? He started going to the store for people who didn't want to go outside.
Talk to me.
These are people who got money. And he said, listen, I'll do the grocery shopping for you. Come on, listen, I'll go to the mall for you. I will do the shop. I will do the delivery for you at a cost. At a
Uh-oh.
cost. And now the guy is making more money than he was making on his job prior to COVID-19.
Ricardo, guess what? Guess what? There are people in that situation which you just described right now.
Yep.
They're going to be confronted with a major challenge. When
Yep.
things resume,
Yep.
they're going to be confronted. Do I go back or do I continue to work this side hustle, Ricardo? Ricardo, hustle today, keep the poverty away. You
Woo!
hustle today to keep that poverty away, man.
Yes, so hey, listen, guys, I need about a dozen of y'all to write that down. Hustle today will keep that poverty away. You better declare, I'm coming for all that's mine in 2020. Hustle today, Nathaniel, I like that. Hustle today will keep poverty away. Now, watch this. There are guys who want, like you said, will emerge out of this pandemic as businessmen, and they came into it as employees.
Uh-oh.
They found themselves unemployed, but they became innovative. You know what I'm saying? They got extremely creative, and they decided they're going to use their car. They're going to decide that, listen, I was cutting my yard. Watch this. I lived in Pinewood. I lived in Elizabeth Estate. I live in a community that had hundreds of homes, and I kept my yard well taken care of. But I know there are 20 people in my neighborhood who don't have a lawnmower and don't want their yard to be funny, but they got the money to pay me. I can go ahead and crush pride and start constructing the whole idea that I'm the guy to call to get the yard cut. I like what you said also for teachers, Nathaniel. There are countries around the world that are needing more teachers online. There's no reason why we have teachers in the Bahamas who don't have a side gig of teaching Chinese kids. Come on, teaching kids in Japan and living in the Bahamas and getting paid for it.
Listen to me. The average teacher will struggle when this pandemic is over because of the opportunities that have come into them Oh my goodness. Ricardo, listen to me. There are so much opportunities. You were employed, the pandemic came, and now you are deployed.
Yep.
Oh.
Oh.
You were
Yep.
employed, and then the pandemic came, and now you are deployed.
Wow.
Some of you had dreams. The pandemic just accelerates you into your dreams.
Yep. Yep.
Listen to me. Listen to me. The needs are there, even if it's not in your community. I hear you, Ricardo. I hear you, Nathaniel.
Yep.
Even if the need is not in your community, the need is online.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Even if your need is not in your community, the need is online. There's never in the history of the world and time have been a great demand for service provider such as this time.
Yep. Yep. Wow.
Get online, guys. Get
Wow.
online.
Wow. Hey, Natalia, let me ask you this. Let's talk to this particular group of people. They got a little bit of money and they put something aside, and it's not really a bad day for them, but yet they're still trying to live at the level that they were living prior to March.
Okay.
How important is it for us to literally, I don't care where you are, pay attention to your coins and start living a little bit below your means, or live below your means for the masses that are watching, to ensure that no matter how long this thing lasts, yes, you might have had the 6 months of savings, the 1 year of savings, but you don't want to wipe yourself out because you decided to keep it all at the same standard when the whole country has been disrupted. Living below your means right now in this pandemic, how important is it?
That's my point number 3, Ricardo. That's point number 3. Let's get back to that list, that priority list. We talked about food and medicine as number 1. We talked about shelter as number 2. Let's talk about number 3. Utilities. Listen to me, Ricardo. In this time, you're not going to be able to sustain the lifestyle you had in 2019 and in 2020 environment, and your income is compromised. So what has to happen now? We need to look at what is priority.
Yeah.
We need to look at what is necessity.
Yes.
And what is priority, what it mixed with what is necessity, will allow us to live the life that we need. Too many of us are living out of wants, not needs.
Yeah.
And it's to a point where persons are not even able to distinguish a want from a need, Ricardo.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
You hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
I love sending my clothes to the laundry.
Yep.
I had to get reacquainted with my iron.
Come on.
We had a housekeeper.
Yeah.
We got to get back to doing some chores ourselves.
Come on. Yes.
The only thing that is stopping us from excelling in this season is pride and ignorance. The only thing that's stopping us from excelling in this season is pride and ignorance.
Yeah.
We now have to look at all of the things, all of the expenses. For some persons, they have never done this exercise. Write all your expenses down. Yeah. I would even advise person, go on your online banking account and look at some of your expenses.
Yes.
You will be shocked. Yeah. Don't only look at your expenses within this month, look at your expenses in the last 3 months.
Yes.
And then go through it and see, do you really need this thing? Do you really need that thing? But guess what, Ricardo? If they were to go on their online account and look at their expenses, many of them, for the first time in their life, will realize that there was some expenses that they didn't even know what was being deducted from their account.
Yep. That is so good. Go ahead, you got to dive into that, because there are a lot of people who didn't even realize they signed up for subscription. That there are different elements of deduction that's coming out that they could actually stop, and they don't even know it.
Because guess what? Every $20 count, every $14 count, every $9.99 count in this season. You understand what I'm saying? Where we can get free, let's get it free. Where we have to pay, if it is a necessity, if it is a need, if it brings value, let us pay. But if it is a want, if it is luxury, we got to put that aside for the season. Because guess what? In this season, we don't even have the same amount of time to use for our luxuries anymore.
Wow.
This is a season where we have to re-engineer ourselves. I'm using the theme. I'm using the theme now. Re-engineer ourselves. Why? For re-emergence, because we can't come out in 2020 or 2021 the same as 2019.
Come on.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
We got to come with more value. Your
Yeah.
employer is going to be
Yeah.
looking at you side eye. Oh,
Yeah.
you only
Yeah.
doing the same thing, which no.
Yeah.
What trade
Come on.
sets you pick up? What value you will pick up? So in this season right now, Ricardo, there's
Yep.
some
Yep.
books we're going to have to read. In
Yep.
this season right now, there's some YouTube online books that we need to listen to. In
Yep.
this season right now, there's some
Yep.
free courses that we're going to have to pick up,
Yep.
Ricardo.
Yep.
Because guess what? We got to get back to the lifestyle that we used to live. A
Yep.
lot of people, and this is big now, if you're married, this is a big one. If
Yep.
you're married, it is difficult, it's difficult sometimes
Yep.
to live a particular lifestyle with your spouse and reduce that lifestyle,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
There has to be conversation around that.
Yep.
There has to be a time frame around that. Listen to me, Ricardo.
Yep.
Because if there's no conversation, if there's no time frame, if there's no actionable step when we make that decision, you're going to cause tension. You're going to cause
Yep.
some friction.
Yep. Yep.
And you may cause even potentially the thought of separation.
Yep.
You got to touch it, Ricardo. Because see,
Yeah.
listen to me.
Yeah.
We have to have the conversation. If you're married, with your spouse, if you have a significant other and you have a joint relationship, we need to have the conversation. There's some things that we used to afford, some things we used to buy, we're not able to buy in this season right now. However, when we come out of this season, we will resume the life that we're living. Ricardo, right now, believe it or not, this may sound crazy, but there's some people who are experiencing lifestyle inflation in this season right now. Their income has been reduced, but they're now increasing their spending, living a lifestyle they just cannot afford and couldn't afford it when they were on their regular job.
Yep. Now, I like that, Nathaniel. We're going to bring this in, and I want to dive into this right here because I know that there are people who perceive and have accepted that because they can buy it today, they can afford it. They may can't afford it, but they're thinking, I have the money in my pocket now. I have the money in my bank account now. That's why we have to go back to that budget. That's why we have to have that long-term goal to be able to say, okay, in the next 3 months, based on what I'm receiving now from my employer, based on what I'm receiving now from government, based on what I'm bringing in, can it really meet the demands of sustaining my lifestyle? And if it is sustaining my lifestyle, in the event one or two of those things experience a bump in the road and this pandemic extends itself to next summer, because there are people who says, well, I'm going to do okay this Christmas, I'm going to be okay this Thanksgiving, but the reality of it is you don't know what the first quarter of the new year is going to be.
That's true.
You don't know what the whole next year is going to be for you and your industry. Yes, watch this, Nathaniel. I've discovered some people have literally done extremely well up to this point because their industry has not been disrupted. It doesn't mean that if you don't pay attention and start operating with a clear guided plan with the intent to cover yourself in the event of a crisis in your personal life, you can find yourself with a boo-boo. Now, I'm asking you to go into this a little bit to those who are still spending money because they can pay for it today, but they don't really have the financial structure to do that for the rest of the year or even into the next 12 months. Talk to those persons about the critical need to not just think about what's in your account today, but start thinking about where our economy is at and how much more we have to be responsible with doing what we need to do to take care of ourselves, because it could get worse before it gets better from an economy standpoint.
You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. We got to remember, Ricardo, when you think of the economy, when you think of money, and when you think of in relations to countries around the world, in times like these, the recession won't stop until the health pandemic has been resolved.
Yep.
The recession will not stop unless the health pandemic is resolved. In other climates, we have seen back in 06, 07, 08, especially in the 08 crisis, when there is a financial bubble, it affects so many institutions, not even in your country, but institutions in other countries. And the recovery period for these type of recessions is a wait and see type of moment. As government apply mechanism, both fiscal and monetary policy to try to rebound these economies, they do not happen overnight, Ricardo.
That's
They
good.
do not happen in the blink of an eye, Ricardo.
Yep.
So even though you may be doing good in an industry that is booming in the health crisis,
Yep.
we do not know how it will affect certain industries that can potentially drag out the recession a little bit longer than expected. So this reason why I'm saying that the likelihood of that happening is high. Now, here's the thing.
Yep.
Here's the thing. In order to manage this moment right, we have to live on less.
Yep.
In order to manage this moment right, we have to live on less. Why? Because if it turns out to be better than expected in the new year, we are now in the prime position to do more with less and save more to capitalize on what will be available.
Yes.
You hear me? We'll be able to do more with less and capitalize more on what is available because our savings will be high.
Yep.
All investments start with savings. However, on the flip side of it, if you're struggling and you're implementing some of the things that we talk about today, and you're hoping and banking that in the new year things turn around and you're able to pick up, that's fine. That's great. But if it doesn't, you are now having a workable plan that will help you get from now to the new year. And if things don't pan out in the new year, you still have a workable plan that can help you and last you over the duration of what could potentially happen at the same time.
Wow. Wow. That is so good, Nathaniel. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about effective living when it comes to proper money management and you having the appropriate hustle to ensure that you can survive this pandemic. There will be people who will come out of this thing with the victory. They're coming out sweating. They're coming out having looked back and say, my God, that was a rough one. But they're going to still come out winning. And you need to tell yourself, I'm coming out of 2020 winning. I'm coming out of 2020 with all that belongs to me. Yes, we're dealing with a global pandemic. Yes, there's been national and international disruption in our countries. But here's what I know. Someone is going to win. Someone is going to do well. Come on.
Why not me? Somebody's winning in this season, Ricardo. Why not me? If you believe that today, I want you to type that inside the chat. Why not me? Somebody is going to win in this season. Why not me? If you believe that right now, I need you to type that inside the chat right now.
Why not me? Let me tell you
Why
something.
not
Get
me?
up every morning telling yourself, why not me? Because someone is going to do very well. Why not me? And last but not least, Nathaniel, I want you to look at this as a closing thought. Accountability. Someone is assigned to help us. The reality of it is all of us have access to someone that can help us to get to where we're trying to go. The role of having good wisdom, help, advisors, support around us in times of crisis. How important is that? Because there are some people, Nathaniel, that have somewhat kept themselves by themselves, but they don't have the strategies in and of themselves to get themselves out of this thing with what God wants them to get out of this year. There's a statement that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I truly believe someone is assigned to help us. But in order for us to get to where we're trying to go, we have to watch this, align ourselves with the proper people that can help catapult us to that next phase. Talk to us about association in times of a pandemic, association in times of crisis.
Listen to me, Ricardo. In every environment, there is an advisor. In every environment, there's an advisor. And where there's an advisor, the right advisor, there's direction. Where there is the right advisor, there's direction. Listen to me. Before this pandemic, I was not known. I hooked up with the right advisor. Now I'm known. Listen to me. At the end of the day, you're not going to be able to do this by yourself.
Yeah.
There was a quote from one of the greatest books I've ever read in my entire life, and I would advise people to read it as well. And the book it is called, well, let me tell you what the quote is called first. The quote says, in the multitude of safety, in the multitude of advisors, there's safety.
Yeah.
In the multitude of advisors, there's safety. A lot of persons right now trying to find our safe place. By the way, that's coming from the book of Proverbs and the Bible. The Bible.
Yeah.
I would say this, at the end of the day, we're all trying to find our safe place. We're all trying to revert to a place where we feel comfortable, where we are not affected so much by the pandemic. We are not affected by the external variables that are around us today. In order for that to happen, that safety can only be found where there are the right advisors. The right advisors will give you an action plan, a game plan. They will even get you right mentally and emotionally. Many of us have the right plan, but we're not right emotionally. We're not right in our attitudes to handle the fight that we're fighting right now.
Yeah.
But with the right advisors, they will put you. What I love, the right advisors provide the proper perspective.
Yeah.
The right advisors provide the proper perspective. And once a person has the proper perspective, execution, acceleration, winning happens all the time, all the time. Sometimes you might be losing in the game. The coach pull you aside and say, hold on, this is where they're beating us. Let's make that adjustment. And now we got a championship. We got a championship. Right now, you're a championship player. You're playing like a loser.
Wow.
You're a championship player and you're playing like a loser. Hook up with the right advisors and come out winning the championship. There are some people in life, a championship is only thing expected of them and nothing less. You can be a champion in life if you have the right advisor. The only thing expected from you is a championship. Your household is expecting you to come out like a champion.
Yes.
They only, before this pandemic, they were winning. They don't know what it is to lose in an environment.
Yeah.
You got to put yourself, your family in a position to win. And that can only happen if you have the right advice. They hold you accountable. They hold you accountable. In a time like this, the number one thing I would say to a person, budget your money and budget your time. Budget your money and budget your time. Because once you budget both, this is how you're going to win in this season, man.
Yeah, man, I love it. I love it. It was interesting that you closed with that because, you know, I'm having a time management webinar in about 2 weeks. And a lot of people don't realize, man, a lot of people don't realize that time, man, time wasted is time you'll never have again. You understand what I'm saying? Time wasted is time you'll never have again. And you got to decide that, listen, time is your most precious resource and you're going to utilize it to the fullest. And a lot of us waste a lot of time. And unfortunately, because of the global pandemic, some of us are wasting our time and not utilizing time correctly to ensure that, one, we come out of this pandemic not only surviving, but thriving. And two, reinventing ourselves to be who we need to be when this thing turns. Because guess what, Nathaniel? It's not going to be business as usual when this thing is turned. There will be new king of the hills. Come on, there will be new generals. There will be new emerging leaders that will have showed up after this pandemic because they used their time wisely. Listen, tell our viewers how they can follow you, how they can stay connected with you, and the services your company offers that some may be interested in capitalizing on.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Listen to me. My name is Druber. I'm from Druber Solutions. You could go right on our website, www.drubersolutions.com. And we have a wide range of coaches who are available to help you. From college planning for those who need scholarship, we got the best in our country right now. From career planning, we got the best in our country right now. Entrepreneurship, you're trying to start your business, we got the best in the country right now, man, Ricardo. And I can't forget, let's talk about social entrepreneurship. Those who trying to start their nonprofit type of groups and activities. We got the best in the country has to offer, Ricardo. And last but not least, personal finances. Let's get that money right. Let's get that money right. 30-minute consultation right on the website. Just book it and we will have it. You will have it with me and many others who have had more than, listen to me, Ricardo, more than 15, 30, 35 years of experience dealing with money, dealing with the industry of financial service within the country. Is it limited to Bahamas, Ricardo? No. As many persons around the world, please go on the website, drubersolutions.com, or you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter at Druber Speaks or Druber Solutions without the S. That's Druber Speaks or Druber Solutions. And last but not least, Ricardo, there's some people right now saying, I want to send that email. Hey, that's info@drubersolutions.com. Info@drubersolutions.com.
Hey, Nathaniel, it's always a delight to have you join me on platforms like this and to see what you're doing and the services that you're offering. Listen, guys, connect with Nathaniel Butler today. As a matter of fact, I'm a strong believer if you connect with someone on their early stage of building and developing their enterprises, you can get grandfathered in, okay? You can get grandfathered in at a good price because here's the deal. There's no coming down from here. Next
Oh
stop,
no.
the top. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Effective Living Saturday Conversation. It was my delight to share with Nathaniel Butler. This guy is helping a lot of people when it comes to building what God's called them to build, from their money to their business to actually structuring themselves to move ahead with what they have to offer in their country, society, and even sometimes the world. So capture what you have and work it until you make it. Okay? Work it until you make it. Nathaniel Butler, thank you again. Ladies and gentlemen, tag someone that you think will enjoy this conversation. Next week, I'll be back, same time, every Saturday. I'm about to do something to close out this year strong to help us, many people, to get what's theirs as they come out of 2020, fighting the good fight of faith. Thank you, everyone. God bless you guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.